So the B-52 can carry a considerable bomb load and is, a reliable old stalwart, and the US Air Force has still got a large number of those. So it can fly long distance, drop a big bomb load, and then return and repeat the process. So a very old, established aerial bombing capability that still offers utility in this day and age, despite the amount of service it's seen. In contrast, the B1 is a supersonic bomber. It's a swing wing bomber, so it flies much faster. It's Mach 2 capable, so much more difficult to shoot down. Doesn't carry quite the same bomb load, but still a very effective weapon and being used very effectively. It's been used by the US when attacking targets in the Middle East on quite a few occasions in the last few years. Of course, both those weapons will be replaced by the B-21 when that comes into service in the next couple of years, and that will be a real step change in capability. You wouldn't want to bring B1s and B52s in until you had degraded their air defence capability. Not only their air defence capability, but their fighter fleet as well, because that would get airborne and take on those targets if it could. And so the fact that the Americans are using these aircraft now tells us that the ground-based air defence systems of Iran have now been taken out, the radars and the launch sites. So at the beginning of this, the whole strategy was high risk. And so you were not going to use the B-2 for general bombing. You use the B-2 when you have the element of surprise, when an attack is not expected, and you want to have achieve a precision effect against a specific target, exactly as it did when it took out the 3 nuclear sites in Iran last year. The phase 1 is to take out the air defence systems, first of all the radar and then the launch sites. And it has predominantly used the F-35. And for me, actually, more than anything, this operation has been a total vindication of the F-35 project. The F-35 has been hugely successful in taking out Iranian targets without any losses. It's scored its first air-to-air combat kill, and no aircraft has been lost. So the bang for buck of the F-35 really puts the naysayers to rest, I think, even though it's an expensive aircraft and difficult and more expensive to support than people thought it would be. So the F-35 has been effective because, the F-35A is a bomb truck. It carries a very solid load, comparable with the UK's Tornado, and it can carry a good range. But its stealth capabilities are still first class. So it really can fly to prosecute a target without being seen, and that is a huge advantage. The F-35B, which is the one that the UK has got at the moment on the carriers, obviously has, because by virtue of being short takeoff and landing, it has a smaller bomb load, but is still a very effective aircraft for the same reasons. It does carry a good bomb load, it carries a good amount of internal fuel, and is very hard to see and bring down. So both those aircraft are being used effectively to take out targets, flying a huge number of missions, especially the Israelis, and without being seen. Of course, the other factor in the F-35's favour is that the much vaunted new generation Russian and Chinese radars, the S-400, just haven't been any good at all. They haven't been able to spot these aircraft. They were supposed to be able to locate stealth aircraft and take them out, and they have not been able to do that. So that speaks not only volumes about the F-35 having a very low radar cross signature, but also the inadequacy of these supposedly great air defence systems. I think it will have been hugely humiliating for them and surprising as well, because they really thought that they developed, world-class systems. And I think, that's very good in my book, because the failure of these systems will achieve a huge deterrent effect. Russia has completely failed to achieve its military objectives in Ukraine. Many of its established systems have proven to be totally inadequate for that conflict. In contrast, China has never fought a war. All of its systems are untested, and it's invested all this money in new capabilities which are totally unproven. In the meantime, America has fought a lot of conflicts in the last 10 years or so. Its systems are state of the art. They're tested, they're proven, and they've been improved. So I think it will make them think twice before they take on the might of the United States. Because we have to be careful that America doesn't become to sit on its laurels and become overconfident. But even so, it has prodigious capabilities, and it's only improving those. It doesn't have the B-21 in service yet. It doesn't have the F-47, the new combat aircraft, in service yet. But these things are coming. It's got new artillery systems. First time we've seen precision strike missile. These are all first-class capabilities, and are just pushing the US further forward. So you really can't bet against it. And I think it will succeed in its objectives against Iran, and it will just be a question of time. And what I see is America doing exactly what it did against Iran in 1991. So at the moment, the sort of a top-of-the-line bomber that the US Air Force has is the B-2, but it only has 20 of these, and they cost something like 500 million each. So very limited capability, although hugely effective. I mean, these things were flying all the way from America, being refueled, and then they dropped the bunker-busting bombs that just took out Iran's nuclear capability last year. And these will probably have been used again to probably use bunker-busting bombs. But as I said, it's a very limited capability and used at huge cost. And the US really can't afford to lose one. So with the B-21, what America has decided to do is to create what is basically what people call the B2.1, the B-21, which is exactly the same aircraft as the B-2, a little bit smaller, benefits from new technology, better stealth, a slightly smaller payload, but a cheaper price. And the US Air Force is going to buy 100 of those, possibly more, 150 or even 200. And that will give it a significant capability to bomb targets without being detected from the air. Well, there's no doubt that the US will be using a lot of cyber effect. It will be trying to intercept the use of the internet in Iran. It will, trying to break into their secure systems, and it certainly has some very sophisticated software to do that. It will be using electronic warfare. It will be using open source data as much as it can achieve that, and it will be trying to use that information to work out enemy intent and to locations of key leadership personnel. And we know Israel via Mossad has been hugely successful in doing that. I mean, the attack took place when it did, at the time it did, precisely because it knew that Iran's leadership would all be meeting in the same place at the same time. So it was too much of a good opportunity to pass up on. So Israel and the United States were very good at getting inside information on where people are, what they're doing, and where the targets are. And of course, every time they try and attack a US aircraft or drone, and I think a few US drones have been lost, they learn where the anti-aircraft systems are. And so there's a very fast time between locating the anti-aircraft system and using F-35 or a missile to take that out. So a lot of cyber activity going on, will continue to go on. And actually, this is probably one of the unsung heroes of the conflict so far. The sheer amount of data you can learn from open source material can achieve a massive strategic effect.